Hello everyone, today we are going to swatch all the acrylic gouache I have. I have white in 250 mls and white in 40 mls and the others in 20 mls. And the companies I have are Holbein, Acrylic gouache and Turner, both browns like the regular line, the pastel line, and the Japanese line. The Japanese are more fluidity and more sandy in texture, and the others are more creamy. I think that the Turner regular line is a bit more pigmented than the Holbein line, and the Japanese line is a bit less pigmented, I think, and a bit more muted. So we'll now start swatching. It's going to be a long video. I will swatch almost all of my colors except whites. Whites I will swatch in another video because I want to mix them with other colors. So let's start. I will zoom with my camera. So the first color we'll be swatching is Holbein Cream Yellow. I wrote the pigment codes under the names and the letter H or T or TJ to know which brand it is. So this is cream yellow. It's a beautiful yellow. Before I bought it, I thought it will be more muted, but it's like a very light yellow. Still, I like it. Next is Turner Japanese Pale Yellow. It's a muted yellow, very beautiful, a bit earthy pale yellow. Here it looks a bit more vibrant, but when it's dry, it's more muted. It's like some kind of darker cream yellow. Next is Turner Permanent Yellow or Permanent Lemon, I'm sorry. It's a PY3, it's very light and bright. And I like to mix it with dark blues to create beautiful greens. Next is Turner Permanent Yellow PY74. Also a primary yellow. It's a mid-tone yellow, like a hand yellow medium from Daniel Smith in watercolors. Next color is Holbein Mustard. It's a mustard color, and yeah, I love it. I especially love it in combination in painting with sap green or deep green. Very beautiful. Or emerald green, some kind of emerald green. For me it will be cobalt green of Holbein. Next is Turner Dandelion. It's very close to mustard and also really, really nice. I think it's a bit dirtier than mustard, but not by far. Next is Turner Japanese Deep Yellow. It has quite texture and it's quite sandy, and it's an earthy deep yellow. It's not yellow ochre color, but still it's more muted than regular deep yellow and more sandy or gritty. Next will be Holbein Deep Yellow PY83. It's a pigment I wanted to try for a long time, so I'm happy that I have it in acrylic gouache. And yeah, it's a quite bright deep yellow and I love it. Next is Holbein June Brilliant, and it's kind of skin tone color. I usually use it diluted with white, like in pastel form. Next is Holbein Orange Yellow. It's also PY83, a bright yellow orange. Next is Turner Japanese Strong Orange. I love this color. It's both bright and muted, and it's very gritty and has some texture to it. It's less bright than what you see on my camera. Yeah, now after I smooth it a little bit, it looks the same as in reality. Next color is Turner Permanent Orange. It's a bright orange. Nice color. I bought it to give a pop of colors in some landscape paintings. Next is Turner Pastel Peach. Very nice color. Very soft pastel-y skin tone color. It's a bit more pinkish than the Holbein Pale Peach that we'll see in a minute. The Holbein Pale Peach is a bit more yellowish and a bit more pale. Very beautiful color also. I think it's one of the colors of Holbein that first fell in love with. Great color. Next is Turner Pastel Orange. It's the same pigments as Pastel Peach, but with less white. It's a quiet, bright, pastel-y color. Next is Holbein Shell Pink, a very beautiful color. I like it a lot. It's a bit more pinkish than the Pastel Orange of Turner. Now we look at the color that is very close to Holbein Shell Pink, and it's called Turner Japanese Pale Pink. It's quite gritty and I love it a lot. It's beautiful. It's a bit muted than the Shell Pink. Next is Turner Japanese Deep Pink, which is deeper than the pale pink with different pigments. Very beautiful color. I love it a lot. It's not a bubblegum pink, it's more muted pink, and yeah, I love it. It's more like some kind of deep vintagey pink. And it has a texture to it. It keeps the brush strokes. Next color will be Turner Japanese Red Brown. It's a color I love a lot. It looks less bright than on my camera, and it looks more muted and less maybe orangish. Yeah, now it looks almost the same, just a tad less bright. Next color is Ash Rose from Holbein. A nice earth rose color, and it goes well with the previous 4 or 6 colors. Next is Holbein Coral Red. I saw in different YouTube channels that this color is not light fast. It's the same pigments as the vermilion, but with white added. So I don't know about the vermilion, but I suspect that the vermilion is also not light fast. As much as I remember, when you add a lot of white to a color that is not so light fast, it becomes not so light fast, not light fast, more not light fast. Now we see the vermilion, a beautiful color. I wish it was more light fast. It's so beautiful. It's in your face, a warm red. Next is Holbein Light Red Bright. It's an earthy warm red or earthy scarlet. I like it a lot. It's very close to the Venetian red of Turner that we'll see later on, but it's brighter than that, so I put it with the Nude Vermilion color. And this color has some texture to it. It's a bit sanded and a bit, it retains the brush strokes. Next color is Holbein Scarlet. It's a nice color. I like to paint with it. Not as beautiful as the vermilion, but still nice. Next color will be Turner Japanese Yellow Red. It's a bit a strange color, but it's nice. It's more mid-tone red. It reminds me a bit of Perylene Red of Daniel Smith. Try to remember, maybe PR 178. Yeah. But it's not these pigments. It has PR 254 and PR 101. It's a nice color. Next is the Holbein Pure Red. It's made with PR 170, which is not the best light fastness, but usually it's also not fugitive. But you have to be careful with this color. And it's a nice mid-tone red. Next is Holbein Carmine, is made with PR 170. It's a nice cool red, and I use it to mix violets and purples. Next is Turner Japanese Deep Red. It's a cool red. I haven't tried to mix with it, use it on its own, but maybe I will try. I think it could bring interesting results. So we finished with the first page. There are 4, and 1/4 pages. Next page is about a bit of violets, grays, blues, and greens. We'll start with pale pink. This was a mistake buy. I wanted to buy the pale peach, but bought the pale pink instead. But still, it's a nice color. It's a bit cool for me, but still I like it. It's very creamy. Next, it's from Holbein. Next is Turner Aubergine. It's a fugitive color. It has a fluorescent color in it. I bought it because of the PR88 that I wanted to see, and it also has a PR14. It's very beautiful when diluted, or with white or by its own, with water. Next is Turner Deep Purple. It's also fugitive. It's with PR88 and fluorescent dye. It's too bright for me. I thought it's more muted, but yeah, I don't use it so much. It's a bit more bright than on my camera. Next color is Turner Grayish Purple. Beautiful color. I use it. It's very beautiful, very muted. Next is Turner Japanese Silver. It's a bit darker than on my camera, but it's not like glittering. It's softer. It has a soft glitter, iridescency. Next is the Turner Japanese Black Silver. It's quite a dark silver and I love it. Next is the Turner Japanese Blue Black. It's bluish black and I like it for night landscapes. It also retains the brush strokes, so it adds an interesting texture. Now we'll see some grays. We'll start with Turner Japanese Gray. It's a quite a cool gray. I love it. It's a beautiful color. It reminds me a lot the Turner grayish blue, but it's a bit maybe more purplish. I'm not so sure. It's a bit more sandy maybe and less bright. Next is Turner Japanese Blue Gray. It's a quite purplish blue gray. And of course it has some grittiness to it. Next is Turner Grayish Blue. On my camera it looks more tealish, but in reality it's less teal, it's more muted. Next is the color that I love, Holbein Ash Blue. It's really beautiful with raw sienna and browns and yellow ochres and beiges. Very beautiful color. It's a tad purplish than in this in my camera. It's more muted. Next is a Holbein Misty Blue, also a color that I love a lot for a gray sky. Think maybe in my camera in some areas it looks a bit more violetty than it's supposed to be. Very beautiful color. Next is I see that I pass on the ash blue. And remember, it's not a teal blue, it's more a violetty muted blue. Next is Prussian blue, Turner Japanese Prussian blue. It's a kind of violet blue or blue purple color. In my camera still it looks a bit tealish. I have a problem in my camera to catch blues and turquoises, but maybe later we'll see them better when they will dry. Next is Holbein Ultramarine Deep, beautiful, some kind of French ultramarine, PB29. Love it. Excellent mixing color. So I pass again on the Prussian blue. It looks better now, but still it's not enough purplish. Next is Holbein Ultramarine Blue PB29. It's a bit less warm than the Ultramarine Deep. Next is Holbein Smart Blue. It's Ultramarine Blue with some white. Here it looks less warm, but in reality it's warmer. It looks like the Ultramarine Deep with titanium white. Very nice and useful color. Next is Turner Japanese Sky Blue. Beautiful color. It's a more intense color, or less whitey color than the Misty Blue. They are very close to each other, and I think it's more bluish. It's kind of a lavendery color, but more bluish. Next is the Holbein Light Blue. It's PB29 and PW6. I think it's the Ultramarine Blue with titanium white. Here it looks more tealish, but in reality it's a bit like a mid-tone blue. Next is Turner Japanese Deep Blue. In reality, it's a bit warmer, a tad warmer. A beautiful color. I love it a lot. Next is Turner Japanese Dark Blue. I saw that the deep blue and the blue has the same pigments. Just the blue is a bit with more white added. Next is Holbein Cobalt Blue PB15. I use it as a primary cool blue, primary cyan, even if it's not called this way. Next is the Turner Japanese Black Blue. This color is very beautiful when you add a lot of white to it. It creates beautiful aquas. Next color is called Cyprus. It's from Turner. A beautiful dark teal blue. Almost a green teal blue, but it's more bluish than green to my eye. Next is Holbein Peacock Blue. She's a bit more bright than the Cyprus, and the tad maybe greenish. I'm not so sure, but it's a bit more bright. Next is a color I'll use a lot. It's called Pale Aqua. It's from Holbein. It looks a bit, maybe a tad greenish. No, it's this color exactly. And I like to mix it with more titanium white to create sky. Next is Turner Japanese Pale Blue. It's the same pigments as the Pale Aqua, but it's softer and sandier and a tad more yellowish. Very beautiful. Next is Holbein Ice Green. It's a color that I use a lot to put a pop of color in landscape paintings. And I also like to mix it with a lot of white to create some ponds or water of the sea in lagoons. Next is Holbein Blue Green. It's a bit of a bright green turquoise, and I like it with a lot of white to create aqua colors. So next, that's all for this page. Next we look at greens. We will start with the Turner Permanent Green Deep. It's a bit more bluish in reality, and it's a beautiful color. Well, now we see it much better. It's the same as in reality. Next is a color I love, Turner Japanese Black Green. Use it a lot in landscape. I think in my camera it looks a bit more yellowish than in reality. In reality is more bluish, but not really blue green. It's very close to reality. Next is Turner Japanese Deep Green. Beautiful juniper green. Also here it looks a bit yellowish than in reality. It's a beautiful color. Chrissy said in her video that it looks like a Faber-Castell juniper green, and I also think so. Beautiful color. It's beautiful when combined with titanium white. It creates soft greens. Next is Turner Japanese Dark Green. Great color for shadows. Next is the color that I like. It's a bit grayish. It's called grayish green from Turner. It's very creamy. And it's very naturally pastel-y grayish green color. Next is Holbein Ash Green, a color that I use a lot. It's kind of an earth green, very muted, very soft. I paint with it far away mountains, and I love it. Next color is Misty Green. Use it for highlights. It's very beautiful. And sometimes for some kind of bright sky. Actually, today I had it in the sky in my area. This color is Holbein Mint Green. It's a bit brighter than I thought it will be, but still it's nice. And then Holbein Pale Mint that I love. This is the color that I wanted. And these two mints are not with the same pigments. Next is Turner Japanese Pale Green. It's quite sandy and it's more muted than the two before. It's something between misty green to mint green. Here it looks more yellowish and more bright, but in reality it's much softer and grayisher. Next is the Turner Ivy Green. Beautiful color. Next is the Turner Permanent Green Middle. It's a mint-on green, more close to yellow, and yeah, I love it. Next is Holbein Cobalt Green. It's very close to the Turner Permanent Green Middle. It's with a bit more, it's with more white, and maybe a tad. Maybe it's more soft. Next is Holbein Deep Green, a color that I love. It's a mid-tone green. Next is Holbein Sap Green. It's a great sap green. I love it. It's beautiful with pale lime and with leaf green and with mustard. It's very beautiful. It's both strong and muted at the same time. Next color is Turner Japanese Green Gold. It's a iridescent color and I love it, of course. It looks a bit cooler in reality. It's quite transparent color, but it's beautiful. Next is Turner Pastel Green. It looks less yellowish in reality. It's a color that is not really my taste, and I may give it to my mother that she does like this color. It's nice, but it's not so my taste. Next is Holbein Leaf Green. It's a fresh kind of green and I love it. It's kind of chartreuse. Next is Holbein Pale Lime. I love this color. It's very light. Yeah, it's one that I love a lot. Great for highlights. Next is Turner Pastel Olive. It's a kind of a brown yellow, a very pastel muted brown yellow. And it looks less yellowish in reality. It's close but less yellowish. Actually it looks in this camera more like the color next, which is the Turner Japanese light green, which I also like. This one is really, really beautiful. It's kind of a pea green. Next color is Turner Japanese grayish green. If I remember correctly, Christie's really love this color. Here in this camera it looks less muted, but actually it's quite muted. Next is Turner Japanese yellow green. It's more muted than the grayish green, the Turner Japanese grayish green. Next is the Turner Japanese olive green. It's a color that I use for far away mountains. And it's a tad brownish than how I swatch it now. It's a brownish olive green. Next is Turner olive green. And now when these two colors I swatch near each other, they look as in reality. I was trying to fix here something, but wasn't doing a good job, as you can see. Next is Holbein olive. It's quite a yellowish olive. It reminds me some olive green of Roman Smile, I think. I'm not sure. It reminds me also a bit of yellow green or green gold in a way. Next are two colors that are very close to each other. One is Turner Japanese dark yellow. And the other is Holbein ash yellow. The Holbein ash yellow, it's a bit more brownish than the Turner Japanese dark yellow. Don't know if you'll see it in the swatch, but in reality it is. Next is, we'll start with ivories, beiges and browns. We'll start with the color that I love. I think my most loved color in the acrylic gouache, it's Holbein Ivory White. Beautiful skin tone. Next is Turner Pastel Enamel, which is a bit more yellowish than the ivory white. Still a beautiful color. Next color is Turner Japanese Enamel. It's like the color before, but a bit more dirtier, like more grayish, but not really grayish. It's a dirtier enamel color, and it's a bit stronger than the pastel enamel. Next is Holbein Naples Yellow. It's a nice muted yellow. Wasn't sure if to put it with near the Turner Naples Yellow or not, but at the end I decided to put it here. Next is Turner Ivory Yellow. Also a nice skin tone. And now we look at two colors that are very close to each other. The first one is Turner Pastel Sand. Another skin tone. And also good for urban sketching. And the other one is Holbein Beige, which is a tad more peachy or a tad more yellowish than the Pastel Sand. And it's also very beautiful. Next is the Turner Japanese Beige, which is darker than the past two and more brownish pinkish than the Holbein Beige and the Turner Pastel Sand. You can see it's more pinkish brownish. And it has the same pigments as the Pastel Sand, but I think with less white. Next is Turner Japanese Deep Beige. It's a bit more pinkish in reality, but not a lot more. Actually, it's quite close to reality. It's a nice color. Next is Turner Japanese Grayish Beige. And I use it to paint faraway mountains. Sometimes I use the color before the deep beige to paint some fields. Okay, next is Holbein Light Apricot. It's a nice skin tone. It's very beautiful. I'm very happy that I have it. And then the Turner Apricot. It's a color that I was debating about for a long time. But yeah, I really love it. It's a great color. It's also good to paint near mountains and some fields. And it's less orangish and more a bit more brownish in reality. Next is the Holbein Gold. It's a bit transparent when you do a big wash with it, but it's very opaque and precise when doing line work with it. Next is Turner Naples Yellow, a color that I love a lot. It's a kind of yellow ochre with white. It's PY53 and PY42. Beautiful, beautiful color. It's not with white added, but it's very light. Next is Holbein Yellow Ochre, PY42. a bright yellow ochre, and Turner yellow ochre, which is PY42 and PW6, but still it looks a bit more bright than the Holbein yellow ochre, and I love it more. I use it more. Next is the Turner Japanese yellow brown. It's also a yellow ochre kind of color. It's very gritty, and it retains the brush strokes. It's a bit more brownish than the yellow ochres. It's quite transparent when doing a wash with it. So maybe it's better to work with it over another color in the same hue. Next is Turner Rose Sienna, color that I love. I use it a lot. I use it for brighter mountains and some fields. It's a very clean and beautiful rose sienna. Next is Turner Venetian Red. As you can see, Putzku tried to eat it and did some holes in the tube, but it's okay. It's a very beautiful reddish brown, and I love it. It looks quite close to the light red bright of Holbein, but it's more muted and more brownish, and I showed here it now. Next is Holbein Burnt Sienna, which is a beautiful burnt sienna, but is more transparent than the Turner one. Even though I really love it. Next is Turner Burnt Sienna, which is a bit more creamy and opaque, and I really love this burnt sienna. It's less luminous than the Holbein one, and it's more earthy. It's very beautiful. Next is Turner Japanese Deep Brown. It's a bit too Indian-y red for me, or more like Daniel Smith Indian red. But it gives a good variety in the brown tones that I have. Next is Turner Japanese Red Bronze, beautiful color. I also like to do some line work with it. Next is Turner Japanese Brown, a beautiful brown. I love this brown. And I am with half tube out, so I will see. I will have to order soon this brown. I love it. I use it a lot. It's great for faraway mountains, and also for fields. Next is Turner Japanese grayish brown. It's more a chocolate kind of brown. Love it. It reminds a bit of deep burnt umber. Next is Turner Japanese dark brown. It's kind of a sepia color. It's beautiful. It reminds me the wet and earth smelly earth after the rain. Next is Holbein Burnt Umber. It's quite a warm burnt umber. And it's very beautiful when you add a bit of white for it. It becomes more pinkish. And next is the Turner Japanese Burnt Umber, which I love. It's quiet, gritty, and it's very beautiful. It's also some kind of chocolate brown, but more grayish. Love it. Next color is the Turner Raw Umber. It's a useful raw umber. It's good for tree trunks. And the color that I love a lot is also Holbein Raw Umber. So the one before was Turner Raw Umber, which I love, and now is the Holbein Raw Umber, which is lighter or with more looks. It's without, but it looks with more white. But it's nice. I like it, and I like that there is the variety between the browns. Now it's the Holbein Sepia, a color that I love. Now I will look at Turner Japanese red black. It's PBK7 and PR101. It's a reddish black. Next is Turner Japanese dark gray, which is a PBK7. And it's the same pigment like the color that is after it. It's a warm black. Next is Holbein Primary Black, a PBK7, and also a warm black. Next is Holbein Jet Black, which is a cool black, PBK1. It's less light fast than the PBK7 or the PBK6, but it's a beautiful black. I love it for night landscapes. I mix it with blues and create beautiful grays with it. Next is Turner Jet Black PBK1, which is more bluish, I think. It's a bit more cool. And it's kind of like satin in a way, the way it looks. A nice color. So these are all the colors I have. And I love acrylic gouache. I use it a lot. So thank you for watching. Have a wonderful time and happy painting. Bye.